What's up, Dewritual? So you were asking for this kind of cool stylized freeze frame effect. So let's see what I got going on here. I'd say that's a pretty spot-on recreation of the shot you posted. So let's get into how to make this. And yes, we will use Fusion, but don't worry, I'll talk you through the steps. So first of all, what I did here is I cut up the clips and then I took a freeze frame of like this shot right here. So if I just take this in, the way I did that is I brought it into my timeline. I'll show you. So I'll copy this, go over here and just to show you what's going on. So I played to where I find the frame that I actually want to use for the effect. And then I'll go to File, Export, Current Frame as Still. You can also do like in the inspector here, you can set the speed change to the snowflake to freeze it, and that will do the same thing. But I sometimes find that Fusion doesn't really like working with freeze framed stuff. It can get a little wonky, so I just prefer exporting the image and then importing it back into Davinci. So after I've done that, I'm gonna work on the transitions before we actually move on to the effect itself inside of Fusion. So let me just bring this track back up so we have the transitions on top, and now we just have this still image, right? So what I've done is I have a adjustment clip here that I made 10 frames long, and in this adjustment clip I added a glow effect. You can find all these effects in the effect library. So in the open effects I added a glow, this one that I just dragged in, and what the glow does is I have animated I've animated the gain and the shine threshold. So in the beginning here, the shine threshold is set to 0. That means that basically everything can glow. But as the transition goes on, it goes up pretty high, so it no longer glows. And the gain is kind of the amount of glow going on. Like you can see here, I can adjust it. So I just kind of find a starting point that I liked. And then as we go on, it's like over to the 10th frame, it slowly fades down to 0, and at 0 it won't glow at all. And I also used some of these splines. So like if I actually zoom in enough here, I can go in here and I can select gain and shine threshold, shine threshold and gain. And you can see here that I have a little bit of a curve going on for the gain, so it starts fast and then it kind of slows down at the end here. That's the first thing. I also added a directional blur, and apologize for the graphical glitches. I don't know, something's going on with my GPU, so it kind of does some weird stuff, but anyway. So I added a directional blur, and I do the same thing with that, so you can see here with the blur strength, it kind of goes here I set it to like easing in and easing out. So it starts off slow and then it goes a little fast, then it slows down at the end. And the last thing I added was a camera shake, which was actually the most hard thing to do. So first of all, what I did, I set the zoom to crop down to 0, because if not, it will be a little bit zoomed in. And I set the border time to reflect. And then I put the PTR speed very high up. I also increased the motion scale and the speed scale. And then I just animated all of these over time. What I found out is that it's better to start the animation out a little bit into the shot so it actually shakes for a bit. Especially with the glow covering everything, you kind of want that shake to pop. So I went 3 frames forward. That's where I set kind of my first keyframes. And then I just slow them all down to basically to 0 at the end. So you can see that it's shaking here like this. And then if we just add them all, we get this. So that's cool. And then for the out animation, it's just a hard cut to the next clip with some glow on it. And I just copied this adjustment clip here, pasted it over there, disabled the directional and the camera shake, and then just messed a little bit with the animations here as well. Started the glow a lot lower, because this is already a pretty bright shot, and then fade it out here. So now let's go over to the actual fun stuff. Let me disable this freeze frame and let me get into the actual fusion clip, which I can do by right clicking and open in Fusion page. So here's where all the magic is happening, really. It is not that it's not really that hard to do. It might look a bit complicated, but it's really not. So what we got going on here is, first of all, if I press 1 while I'm selected this node, it'll show up in my secondary viewer here. So I have this freeze frame, of course, and I've copied and duplicated it. So just doing Control-C, Control-V to make another copy. And then what I did here is I used a polygon. So if I just disconnect that, you can see here that I can create a polygon. That will make everything go away. So I just hit the invert button so I can see what I'm actually doing. And then you just zoom in here and kind of just make a mask around the outside. Now I'm just doing it very quickly so you can see. But of course, when I actually did the shot itself, I was a lot more accurate. But this is just for demonstration purposes. So I'll just quickly go through here and make a mask. Oh, that looks horrible. And then when I get down here and make another, then you have to connect it to the first point you made, like that. And now you can reverse the inversion again and actually see what's going on, and then you can go in and adjust things. So like maybe you want that over there, you can create another point here to bring that in, bring that in. You can drag these handles to like make a smooth curve instead of harsh cuts. This is all the way off. You get the idea, right? And because this is a still frame, I don't need to animate it, I just need to cut it out once and then it's fine. So let me delete that polygon and connect the one that actually looks good. Then what I did is I added a drop shadow. So if I turn this on and off, you can see that it adds a little bit of a shadow behind there. Just adjust the shadow strength, the distance, and the drop angle. And then with a second freeze frame node I have here, this one that doesn't have the masking, I added a transform node, a Gaussian blur node, and a color corrector node. So what the transform node does is it does this animation, right? And the way it does this is by setting edge to wrap. Because if you have it to canvas, then it'll just go away, right? Duplicate, it'll just duplicate the edges. But if you set it to wrap, then it'll bring in the clip again, which is what we actually have going on. So it will just keep going forever in one direction. And then I animated the center of it. So it starts like right here, and then once we get to the end of the clip, I'm set it to negative 1.5, so it's exactly the same as the freeze frame. There's no offset or anything, it's exactly the same. So you can see if I turn this off, it will look exactly the same as when I turn it on. And I just need to update because of this graphic glitch stuff. I really need to get that fixed. Anyway, so with that, I have this animation, and what I also had to do here is go into the spline editor. Now this looks very complicated. Let me clean this up a bit. So you can clean stuff up that you don't want to view the splines by just clicking them, and then it will disappear. So I'm working on the transform 1 node, and as you can see here, I have it go pretty quickly in the beginning and then slow down a lot, so it's very smooth at the end. Right? So I just got it going like this and then slow at the end. Perfect. And so let me disable this thing again. And the next thing we have got going on here is a Gaussian blur. The Gaussian blur is just to add a blur to the background. As you can see, it just blurs the background a bit, which is pretty nice. The thing is, if you add the Gaussian blur before the transform, then you will get problems. So it has to be after the transform. Oh, by the way I move these around that easily is I just hold shift and then release it in a different place. That way I can connect it back into the pipeline without disconnecting and reconnecting stuff. And the way you find these nodes is you can hold control space and then search for them. So transform is important that you pick the XF one. For the Gaussian blur, you can just search for Gaussian blur. For the color corrector, you can just search for color corrector, etc. Now, the last step here is the color corrector. What this thing is doing is it's actually darkening the background as the animation goes along. So I have animated the gain and the lift to go down over time. It starts at 0, which is no change. Well, 1 for the gain and 0 for the lift, and then it goes down a little bit. So I have it at 0.56 for the gain and negative 0.19 for the lift. And that's all. It's just darkening the background slowly. And then we have a merge node. This is where stuff kind of comes together. So the merge node you get with this, MRJ or MRG is or you can actually pick them up from here as well. Now here it's very important to be accurate with the colors, because the yellow input is the background and the green input is the foreground. If you get these mixed up, no worries, you can just hold Control T to swap them. And that's really all. There's nothing special about the merge node. I haven't done anything to it. It's just the background moving over a cutout still image of the character. And then last but not least, I have another transform node at the end here. All this does is add a little bit of that zoom in. So you can see how it's kind of zoomed in over time. Yeah. That's what that does. So it's just zooming in slowly, and you can see it starts at basically nothing, standard default settings, so nothing has changed. And then at the end here, I've zoomed in by about 1.15-ish. Yeah, 1.58. I've also made a keyframe for the center, which I don't know why I did. I could just delete that. And that's it. That's how I made this effect. So it's actually pretty straightforward. You just gotta be a little bit finicky with the attributes, be a little bit precise, try them out a bit, see what works, because some shots might be brighter and you need to have a lower gain on the glow, stuff like that, you know? But if you just take your time, be accurate with the masking, mess with the different glow attributes and stuff, make sure you get a spline for the background movement that you actually think looks nice, which you can do by just moving these handles around. Originally, they will come in like this, a linear. What you can do if you select both of them and press the F button, that will get you an ease, and then you can just click one and drag it out. If you hold down Alt, like if you click this, then press Alt, then you won't move it up and down in a vertical, which will make it move more. So if you just hold down Alt and drag it out, you'll get a pretty nice movement here. I actually put it down a little bit, so you just mess with this until it looks good. I really hope this was helpful to you and that you learned a bit more about fusion compositing. Good luck, and I can't wait to see what you do with it.